Are you guys aware that the government of India plans to spend around 14 lakh crore rupees in upcoming 5 years to develop the infrastructure of energy sector in India? Well, you might be wondering, इस डेटा का मुझे क्या फ़ायदा? Well, अगर आपके पास सही information हो, then you can make a lot of money from this information. So in today's video, we are going to learn about the energy sector and how it has developed over the years, and what are its growth drivers, and where exactly the government of India plans to spend so much of the money. And by the end of the video, you would have a clear understanding on where you should be investing your money in this sector. So the first and the foremost thing that you need to do is develop a basic understanding about the energy sector in India and how it has developed over the years. To begin with, India is the third largest producer as well as the third largest consumer of electricity in the world, and has a product installed capacity of around 382 gigawatts by the end of March 2021. Now I have presented a small pie chart over here about the types of end consumer based on the final consumption of the energy in India, or the electricity in simple terms. So if you have a look at this, roughly around 80% of the energy is being used by residential and industrial sector combined. So 43% is being used by the industrial sector, 38% is being used by people like you and me in the residential sector, and transportation and other account for roughly around 19%. Now, if you have a look at the installed capacity breakup over the years based on the types of fuel. So in 2013, our installed capacity of was roughly around 249 gigawatts, which has increased to roughly around 375 gigawatts by 2019. And if you look at the installed capacity based on the various types of fuel that are being used to generate electricity, then you will easily understand that major source of electricity is being produced with the help of coal. That is roughly 56% is being produced by the use of coal, and it has steadily reduced over the year. Now, what is the problem with coal is that roughly around 70% of the CO2 emission in the energy sector is being done by the coal sector. So India is trying to reduce its carbon footprints, and therefore you can clearly see that the solar and wind as a source of energy has been increasing over the years. Now, इस चार्ट को हम थोड़ा सा इजी वे में पुट ऑन करते हैं. आई विल ट्राई टू कंबाइन वेरियस सोर्सेस ऑफ एनर्जी इनटू थ्री मेजर कैटेगरीज. One is your thermal, second would be your renewable source of energy, and third would be your hydro and nuclear. So thermal energy is any energy जिसमें any kind of combustion or heat is generated, and that heat is used to generate the electricity. Renewable basically accounts for wind and solar and other biogas as well. And hydro and nuclear are the third type. So if you see at the progression chart over here, the pie chart that I've shown, that is in 2013, we had the installed capacity of roughly 249 gigawatts, which has increased to 375 gigawatts in 2019. So thermal energy accounted for 68% in 2013, whereas now it accounts for 63%. And similar thing can be observed in hydro and nuclear. The percentage of total contribution has reduced from 20 to 16 by 2019. And all the percentage of total contribution that has been reduced from thermal and hydro and nuclear is going into renewable source of energy. That is, India is trying to increase its reliance on the renewable sources of energy. That is why from 2013, where the installed capacity, roughly 13% of the installed capacity was provided by renewable source of energy, has now increased to 22%. So the story is very clear that India is trying to increase its reliance towards renewable sources of energy. Now that you have understood the basic structure of power sector in India, now we can focus on what are the growth drivers that we can expect, due to which the energy sector or the power sector is expected to grow. So as we have already discussed that industrial sector and residential sector account for nearly 80% of the energy usage in India. So if both these sectors flourish, then obviously the energy and the power sector is going to flourish as well. So the basic drivers would be your expansion of industrial activities. Since India is a developing country, this is bound to happen. And another part would be the increasing population. Although the pace of increase in population might not be as rapid as it was in the previous decades, but the per capita usage of electricity is going to increase in India. Third would be that the government of India has allowed 100% of FDI in the power sector. So you can expect some kind of capital inflow as well in this sector. Boosting the demand as another factor would be your increasing focus on renewable sources of energy. That is, we'll be shifting from conventional source of energy or thermal energy to renewable source of energy to reduce our carbon footprint. And the most important being the capital expenditure towards making the energy infrastructure better in the country. Now, if you have a look at the capital expenditure that the government of India has given out, so roughly around 14.1 lakh crore rupees are expected to be incurred between 2020 to 2025. Now, the government has also provided a rough estimate on how they plan to uh, do the expenditure over the coming years. So if you have a look at the chart that I have shared over here, then you can easily see that from 2017 till 2020, the expenditure or the capex or the capital expenditure that the government has been doing has reduced drastically till 2020. So it was roughly around 3.2 lakh crore rupees in 2017, which has almost halved in 2020. But the good news is that going ahead in from 2021, that expenditure is expected to rise to roughly around 2.3 lakh crore rupees per year. So you can expect that people will be heavily investing in the energy sector as well going ahead, because the government is planning to increase their capital expenditure in developing the infrastructure over here. So after a slack years, 3 slack years, the energy sector is expected to revive from at least from 2021. Now that we have understood that the government is planning to increase its capex from 2021, if we understand where exactly this expenditure is going to happen, or in which source of energy is the government trying to increase its expenditure, then it will be very easy for us to make a rational decision so as to we understand where exactly do we need to invest our money. So if I segregate the entire 14.1 lakh crore rupees that the government is planning to spend in the energy sector by three categories, that is generation, transmission and distribution. First, the energy is generated by various fuels. So that category or that activity is called as generation. Then that energy is transmitted to the power station, that is called as transmission. And finally, the distribution activities, that is when from the power plants the energy is transferred or the power is transferred to the end customers. So if I categorize the entire capex into if I'm able to segregate this into these three categories, then you will come to know that 48% of the capital expenditure that the government is planning is going to go into the generation activities itself, and remainder of it, that is 26% will go into transmission and distribution. So obviously the more focus is on generation of power rather than transmission and distribution, because India is still into a developing state, I mean developing country. So we are still developing the infrastructure of the power sector. So that is why 48% will go into the generation activities. If I'm able to have a look at this chart over here, the capital expenditure that the government is planning over the years, if you are able to categorize them into the major sources of energy, where exactly they are going to spend the money, then I have created a chart for you to understand. So if you see the entire all these charts of every year, the total of all the percentage is going to be 100. That is, this is a stack chart. So roughly how much of the capital expenditure is being done in which energy source, That you can clearly see in this chart. So if you see 2020 chart, you will understand that roughly out of the 1.6 lakh crore rupees, 29% is to be expended or will be spent in the solar energy, and 14% will be done in the wind activities, whereas roughly 40% will go into petroleum and natural gas. So at 2020 level also, majority of the focus will be on conventional source of energy. But if you see the progression of the chart, then by 2025, 37% of the expenditure or the capex or the capital expenditure that the government is planning is going to be spent in the solar energy, and 47% of the expenditure in 2025 will be done in the wind sector, and only the remainder, very minuscule amount, is being expended into the conventional source of energy. So you can clearly see that over the year, the focus will be on shifting towards renewable sources of energy, that is solar and wind. Since majority of the capital expenditure is going to happen in the renewable sources of energy in the upcoming 5 years, we need to understand what kind of capacity addition is going to be expected in within wind energy and the solar energy as well. So here I have tried to show you what kind of capacity addition do you expect within 2020 to 2025 for solar and wind energy. So in solar energy, 118 gigawatts of capacity addition can be seen. You can clearly see that the focus has already started from FY21. By FY 2020, there wasn't much focus on solar energy because capital expenditure was not that. But over the period of 2021 to 25, there is roughly 20% of the capital expenditure being allocated over here. Whereas in the wind segment, the capacity addition is almost half versus the solar, that is at 60 gigawatts of addition can be expected. But you can see that from FY20 to FY21 there is a huge jump, but the actual real jump happens from FY24. So all the solar energy capacity addition will be steady going ahead, but wind is the source of energy where the focus is going to shift from at least from FY24. That is because wind as a as a renewable source of energy is considered to be more reliable versus the solar energy. Now, although we have seen that the capacity addition for wind segment is almost half of that of the solar energy addition that we can expect, but if you see, not going on the capacity addition but going on the capital expenditure that the government is going to do, here I have tried to draw that comparison. So you can see that in FY21, wind energy capital expenditure by the government is expected to be 59.5 thousand crores versus 88,000 crores in the solar segment. But gradually from FY21, if you shift to direct FY25, you can see the entire focus has changed. That is, solar energy is accounting for 88,000 crores of capital expenditure, but wind energy is accounting from 1.12 lakh crore rupees. So you have to understand that although the focus is on renewable sources of energy, solar and wind, but going ahead from at least from FY24, you can expect wind energy to overtake solar energy as well, because the capital expenditure is going to be more in that. Although the capacity addition would be less, but the expenditure to expand the production of wind energy is going to be tremendous. So in long term also you can focus more on wind energy at least from FY24, because it is considered as a more reliable source of energy versus the solar energy. Now, going to the conclusion, given that energy sector is expected to grow in coming years on account of revival of capital expenditure, it would be a good time to invest in the sector for long term. Growing industrial activities and per capita consumption of huge population base is also beneficial for this sector. Impetus on the growth in renewable energy should increase opportunities in investing in solar and wind energy. In the long run, you can expect renewable source of energy to be the main source of energy. Just check out the estimated chart that I have drawn over here. You can clearly see the first chart that we had discussed was from FY 2013 comparison versus 2019 capacity based on thermal, renewable, and hydro. Okay, so earlier we had seen that from 2013 capacity, energy capacity has increased from 249 gigawatts to 375. Now by FY 2025, you can expect this capacity to rise from 375 gigawatts in 2019 to 583 gigawatts by FY 2025. And you can clearly see that by the fuel type, renewable energy will account for almost 40% of the total energy capacity that India is going to produce by FY 2025. Okay, whereas thermal energy, I beg your pardon, thermal energy will account for roughly 50% versus the current 63%. So it is very obvious that the focus is going to be on renewable energy for upcoming 3 years. Solar energy could be considered as the front runner, but from at least FY 24-25, you can expect that the wind energy is going to dominate even the renewable energy segment. So it would be a very right time for you to invest in companies that are engaged in activities related to renewable energy sector. Okay, especially the solar and wind energy. If you have enjoyed the content of the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel and press the bell notification icon as well. Your support is of utmost importance to us because a lot of research goes into the video that I have created. I also do conduct various value-added courses as well. The link to these courses is mentioned in the description. It contains various free lectures as well. So don't forget to check that out.